what if all the technology that we're using to like break down language barriers, what if it actually builds new ones?
Huh.
It's kind of a scary thought, but it's the premise that this speculative design project, Echoes of Babel, is exploring.
Yeah.
And Echoes of Babel is by this fictional AI designer, INSQ 6337.
Right.
So we're going to unpack this project a little bit in our deep dive today and see what it might say about our own relationship with technology.
Okay, so Echoes of Babel dives into a future where AI-powered translation is so good that it inadvertently causes cultural fragmentation.
Wow.
Instead of like bridging divides,
Yeah.
technology deepens them.
So INSQ 6337 paints this really vivid picture of all these silent serval farms.
Yeah.
And they describe them as monuments to a failed utopia.
Right.
Which I thought was such an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
Because it kind of highlights that irony.
Yeah.
You know, we're relying on technologies for connection, but is it really connecting us?
It's a powerful image. It really makes you think about all of the pitfalls
Yeah.
of using technology to try and solve complex social problems.
Yeah.
Echoes of Babel goes on to explore how this shift in communication impacts power dynamics.
Okay.
So, for example, elders who used to be disregarded maybe in a digital world,
Right.
they suddenly become vital because they hold pre-digital language and cultural nuances.
So that's a huge shift.
Right.
It's like in a world of perfect translation,
Yeah.
suddenly fluency in pre-digital communication becomes a form of power.
It's like a new literacy, almost.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder what new societal hierarchies would emerge from that.
Right. Like, what would the implications of that be?
Yeah.
I mean, the project doesn't really give us any concrete answers.
Yeah.
But it asks really compelling questions.
It does.
About, like, who benefits and who might be left behind in a world like that.
So think about, like, learning.
Yeah.
So in Echoes of Babel, the kids, they absorb knowledge through stories and songs.
Right.
Which is such a contrast
Yeah.
to, like, our current digital learning environments.
Yeah. Huge contrast.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that better?
I don't know.
Is it worse?
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
like, could this more localized oral style of learning, could it lead to, like, greater creativity and a deeper connection to your cultural heritage?
Absolutely.
Or would it, like, limit access to different perspectives
Yeah.
and information?
I mean, it's fascinating to think about.
I mean, it's a great question. And Echoes of Babel, it really makes you think about those trade-offs,
Yeah.
you know, inherent in every kind of learning. The creator of this project, INSQ 6337,
Right.
this fictional AI designer,
Right.
they really utilize like all of the tools of speculative design
Yeah.
to make you think, you know, like
Yeah.
they use data visualization and interactive storytelling. It's not just like presenting a theory. They're crafting like an experience.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, here's what could happen.
Right.
And then they give you the tools to almost like feel
Yeah.
what it would be like to live in this future.
Exactly.
It's unsettling, but also captivating.
Definitely. And it's also interesting that they chose to set INSQ 6337 in Moldova,
Oh, yeah.
which is a place with a long history of cultural intersections and like linguistic diversity.
Right.
And so it kind of adds another layer to the whole project because it highlights how these technological shifts would play out differently across the globe.
Yeah, it reminds us that these aren't just hypothetical scenarios.
Right.
Like this potential for technology to both connect and divide us.
Yeah.
It's playing out in real communities right now.
Absolutely. And Echoes of Babel doesn't shy away from the potential downsides either.
Right.
Like it digs into this concept of cultural fragmentation,
Yeah.
which, you know, people talk about, but it's rarely visualized in such a tangible way. Like imagine a world where hyper-accurate translation actually leads to echo chambers.
Right.
So you're only interacting with people who share your exact cultural background.
Yeah.
Even if you live across the world.
Yeah, it's almost like paradoxical.
Right.
The technology that's intended to break down barriers ends up reinforcing them.
Yeah.
In a new, more subtle way.
In a way that you might not even notice.
Right.
Yeah.
And this fragmentation, it could impact everything.
Right.
From how we consume news and information to how we form relationships and build communities.
Makes you wonder, like, would we even recognize cultural differences anymore?
Right.
Or would they just become so amplified that meaningful exchange becomes impossible?
That's a chilling thought.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And dive into the more technical side of Echoes of Babel.
Okay.
So this project, it hinges on the idea of AI-powered translation, reaching like a level of perfection.
Yeah.
That ironically backfires.
Right.
what kind of technology are we even talking about here?
Well, we're talking about AI models that can go way beyond
Okay.
just simple word-for-word translation.
Right.
They would have to understand like really subtle cultural nuances,
Yeah.
idioms, humor, even like unspoken social cues,
Wow.
and translate all of that flawlessly in real time.
Yeah.
Think about sarcasm.
Right.
Like even humans struggle with that sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we're talking about AI that doesn't just understand language, but has like a deep, almost intuitive grasp of culture.
Yeah.
And this project is suggesting that this level of sophistication is what could lead to the scenario depicted in the Echoes of Babel.
It's suggesting that maybe that's the first step.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not just a technological leap, it's like a philosophical one too.
Yeah.
You know, it raises all these questions about whether true understanding, like the kind that fosters genuine connection, can that ever be achieved through algorithms, no matter how advanced they become?
I'm thinking back to that image of the silent server farms, monuments to a failed utopia.
Yeah.
And it strikes me that maybe Echoes of Babel is ultimately a cautionary tale about placing too much faith in technology.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that technology is a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
And the outcomes depend on the choices that we make, the values we prioritize, the questions that we ask.
That's a powerful takeaway.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technologies.
Yeah.
But Echoes of Babel really encourages us to pause and consider the consequences.
Absolutely.
Both intended and unintended.
You know, and maybe the most unsettling aspect of this whole project is that it was created by an AI.
Right.
This fictional INSQ 6337.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, are we already on this path where AI is not just imagining the future, but shaping it?
That's a thought-provoking question for sure.
It really is.
It blurs the lines between science fiction and reality.
Definitely. And it leads us to another crucial aspect of Echoes of Babel.
Okay.
The impact on learning and knowledge transmission.
So in a world where those digital connections have fractured and localized learning has reemerged, the project highlights the vital role of elders as these knowledge keepers. They hold the keys to pre-digital language, cultural practices, traditional skills.
Oh, that.
So imagine that shift in power dynamics. As younger generations become dependent on their elders for access to this knowledge.
It's pretty radical.
Yeah, it's a radical departure from our current paradigm where information is so readily available at our fingertips. But wouldn't this also create new inequalities?
Of course.
Like, who controls access to this knowledge? Who gets left behind?
That's a great point. In a world where knowledge is localized, the potential for power imbalances and social stratification is huge.
It's not just about access to information, but it's about control over the narratives, cultural identity, and ultimately the future.
Echoes of Babel forces us to confront some really uncomfortable truths about the complexities of progress and the unintended consequences of our technological choices.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the future isn't a preordained destination. It's this constantly evolving landscape shaped by our actions and our values and the stories that we tell ourselves about the world.
And that brings us to the question of what skills and knowledge would be most valuable in a world like the one depicted in Echoes of Babel.
Where those digital connections have faded. And human connection has taken on this new urgency.
It's a great question, and it challenges us to reevaluate our priorities.
Totally.
To consider what truly matters in a world where, like, the rules of engagement have fundamentally shifted.
It feels like Echoes of Babel is asking us, like, if we woke up in this fragmented future, what skills would we need to not just survive, but thrive?
It really gets to the heart of the project. You know, INSQ 6337 isn't presenting a dystopia. They're making us think about the choices we're making now. And how they might shape our ability to adapt.
To a future that's pretty uncertain. So, like, practically, what are we talking about here? What skills would we need?
Well, adaptability is a big one. In Echoes of Babel, the world is constantly changing. Digital connections aren't reliable. Cultural landscapes are shifting. Information is hard to find. So you'd have to learn new skills, quickly, adjust to unexpected changes,
Right.
thrive in uncertain situations.
So it's not just about technical skills.
No.
It's about a mindset
Totally.
of flexibility and resilience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would imagine, along with adaptability, cultural sensitivity becomes even more important.
Absolutely.
When communication breakdowns are a constant threat, we need to be able to understand and navigate different cultural perspectives, even if those differences have been amplified by the very technology that was supposed to connect us.
Ironic. Right.
Yeah. It's like, in this scenario, deep cultural knowledge becomes a survival skill.
It's true.
It's like the project flips the script on what we think of as valuable knowledge.
For sure.
That brings us to another key skill.
Yeah.
Community building.
Yeah. In a world where these global systems have broken down, local communities become super important. You have to work together, build trust, share resources. That's how you share information, make sure everyone's needs are met.
So Echoes of Babel is saying, the future of connection might not be about more technology. It's about rediscovering human connection.
Human to human.
Community.
Shared purpose.
You said it better than I could.
And it's a message that I think resonates. Even outside of this speculative project.
Totally.
We live in a time where technology's everywhere.
It's true.
It's easy to forget about face-to-face connection, cultural understanding, just being present with each other.
Echoes of Babel reminds us that the future isn't something that just happens.
It's true.
We shape it by the choices we make.
The technologies we embrace.
The values we prioritize.
And while it paints a picture of a future, that's not exactly utopian. It also offers some hope.
Yeah. Like, even in a world fragmented by technology,
human connection, adaptability, community resilience, these things can help us create a better future.
Well, this has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Into Echoes of Babel.
It really has.
Thank you so much for joining us on Exploring Futures.
And we hope this episode gave you something to think about. And please share it with anyone else who might be interested in exploring the intersection of technology, culture, and the future.